Okay, we're going to get going.
Yes.
All right, good evening, everybody.
Wave your mighty hammer, Thor.
This is the sorry, July 15th, 2015 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Smithtown. We are going to begin it with the Pledge of Allegiance, and you're all invited to join in. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you have an agenda? No, maybe I have it. Oh, there it is. Never mind. I had these.
Oh, you had last
month?
month?
I brought the book.
I'm glad you weren't looking at some historic
It was
documents.
in the car with me because I went to the site today.
Gotcha. Yes. Yes. I'm glad to see we all planned so well.
I like to go same day or close to it, so it's in my mind, more pressure in my mind.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Planning Department would like to recommend the following items for adjournment because the applicants are not ready to be heard. Number 1, 2012-04, Storybook Homes, Nesconset. Number 2, 2012-02, Carlson Associates, Kings Park. Number 3, 2009-05, FB4 Realty. Number 4, Scholar Estates, Comac. Number 5, 1135, Tuami Platt, St. James. Number 6, 280A, Olivia Estates. Number 7, 1039, Garden Gate, St. James. Number 8, TC 2015-01, SMSA Limited Partnership, Comac. Number 9, 2010-06, KVC Holdings. Number 10, 911A, Glen Hill Northern, St. James.
Is there anybody present on any of the matters that were just read regarding which the Planning Department is requesting be adjourned, that wishes to be heard on those matters? Seeing none, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, motion to adjourn items 1 through 10 on tonight's agenda as recommended by the department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adjourned.
The next item on the agenda is for a final subdivision, number 11, 1156, map of Open Meadow. This memo was previously read on the June 17th meeting and was adjourned because the members wanted to go out onto the field and take a look at the property.
Right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I have the affidavit of posting.
Please submit it. Okay? Thanks.
As you will recall, at the last meeting, there was some concern with respect to visiting the property by the board. It's my understanding that whatever board members wanted to visit, they visited. We just have one additional piece of evidence I'd like to put in.
Sure.
There's Frank Caridley will be submitting 10 or 12 locations with pictures attached.
Thank you, sir.
And basically, they show houses which are not in the sight view of the road if you're on the road.
And have long driveways.
Yeah, long driveways, exactly. So I'm not going to belabor this. We put in our case the last time. The board knows that we became landlocked because of a road, Martingale Gate, that could have gone over another 30 or 40 feet, and we wouldn't be here tonight, but that's not what happened. Martingale Gate ends here, and here's where my client's property starts. We also attempted to speak to the homeowners, Frank Caridley, on each side of where we could get entry by putting a roadway through, and none of those homeowners wanted to have anything to do with coming in their side yards. So this is really the only alternative that we have, and we ask the board for its favorable consideration. I believe you have to give a recommendation to the
Board of Zoning Appeals.
Board of Zoning Appeals, right?
Before we get to anything further, first, does anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this particular matter, matter of open metal number 1156? Sir, please come to the microphone, give your name and address.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is John Tweedy. It's T-W-E-E-D-I-E. I live at 101 Fort Salonga Road in Fort Salonga, and I'm currently the president of the Fort Salonga Association, and I'm here on their behalf. So at the...
Are there any other members of your association here with you tonight?
yes, our vice president, yeah.
He only has to come up if he wants to speak, which he's allowed to do, but if he's going to
Yep.
leave it up to you, that's
Yeah, I
fine.
think
So it's just, you're the president, and the vice president's also in the audience?
correct,
And that's it?
correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So one thing I'd like to say is a flag lot in our town, if allowed, would create a slippery slope, which may result in a plethora of applications from developers to create flag lots throughout our community. Most importantly, for the people of Fort Salonga, the creation of a flag lot is directly at odds with the Smithtown Township zoning regulations. The obvious reason for enactment of the zoning regulations is to maintain the rural atmosphere of the residential neighborhoods, which is one of the reasons that Fort Salonga and the town of Smithtown are the best place to live. There's simply no compelling reason offered as to why the present subdivision and variance applications should be granted. There is opposition for the application, as you can see by our presence. Also, some of the neighbors are here, the Triolas. I don't know if you want them to raise their hand, who they are. Yeah.
Only if they want to speak.
Because, well, I know at the last meeting you had mentioned that the neighbors, none of the neighbors had directly opposed this, and there are...
Well, nobody was there, I think, to speak either for it or against it.
Well, not on the meeting at the 17th,
right.
but prior to that, because I know you asked about history, and prior to that, that's why I want to bring this point up.
Sure.
They've been at other meetings to oppose this, and I don't know why they missed the meeting on the 17th. It might have been, we thought that it was adjourned.
It's academic at this point since they're here.
Yes, I just wanted to point that out. And also, you know, our association has been contacted by several other neighbors that could not be here this evening, but once this does move to the zoning board, those neighbors intend to attend those meetings. Another point as well that I think Mr. Tremarca and the applicant pointed out earlier, at the last meeting on the 17th, it was, I think you had questioned David Flynn's report about 2% of the homes were not visible from the road. I think the document that you just got proves that. You know, it's less than 2%. Right? There's 10 out of 1,100 homes that they give you pictures of. So I wanted to point that out as well. Just give me a second here, sorry. Some more of my notes here.
I don't think anybody represented that this was a picture or a list of every home in Fort Salonga
It's
that
not.
can't be seen from the road.
It's not.
I
And
think they're just giving me some examples.
No, and I agree with you. I'm just saying, I mean, if you'd like, you know, they took the picture of the 12 that you cannot see from the road. I'll take the other pictures of the 1,100 and bring it to another meeting if you need that. Because, you know, I've lived in Fort Salonga. I've born and raised in Fort Salonga, and it seemed like last meeting you were painting a picture that it is a community of homes that are not visible from the road, but there is a very minimum amount of homes that are not visible from the road. The other thing I wanted to say is that I hope that your site visit learned that what we were talking about, that, you know, many of the homes are visible from the road. And I think that that's important here, because this home, you know, won't be visible from the road. And I know a lot of things the last meeting were talked about, that the access for ambulances and things like that, everybody was opposed to that. So that's all I have to say for now.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one question. You mentioned the term flag lot.
Yes,
And I believe you said it was not in compliance with the zoning code.
correct.
How do you yourself define the word flag lot in the way that you've used it? How do you define?
Well,
Do you
the
have
way
a
that-
definition that you can point to that's
No,
in the
just,
zoning code or anyplace else that specifically
no.
says what is or isn't a flag lot?
No, I do not, no.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Yeah. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else who wishes to be heard on this matter? Ma'am, please come up to the microphone. Just give your name and address, please.
I'm a little short.
You can take it out if you want.
That's okay.
And that way you can move around also.
Debbie Triola. I'm at 11A Sunken Meadow Road. I'm their neighbor on the eastern side, but on the rear portion of the property. There's another home on the frontage on Sunken Meadow in between us on Sunken Meadow Road.
So just so we can all be clear, if I'm looking at that map right now, you're on the left side towards the back? Oh, the right side, right, that would be the eastern side, okay.
So I'm extremely impacted by the proposal. However, I've lived in Fort Salonga for 25 years. I live on 2.5 acres. I've lived here because of the zoning ordinances and the face and the nature of Fort Salonga. And I'm, besides that this will personally impact me, I'm concerned that opening this up will also change the face of all of Fort Salonga eventually. And that's it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Tramarko, do you wish at this time to give any remarks after having heard the two speakers? You don't have to, but you can if you want to.
The pictures and the addresses that were given to the board are only examples of a situation which Mr. Flynn brought up, saying that, hey, you can't find the house and God forbid an ambulance is sent out or a fire truck. Well, first of all, there's nothing in the code that says you can't put your house back 300 feet as long as you have the front and rear yard setbacks. So there's nothing in the code that prohibits it. And in this particular situation, just like all the other houses, whether they are visible or not, there would be a mailbox in the front. Fire departments have GPSs today. It's not like they don't know where they're going before they go. And as I said before, we wouldn't be here today if that Martingale Gate Road was extended and the cul-de-sac touched the corner of the property.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so now I believe since the last meeting, I know I've gone out to the site. Has everybody else gone out to the site? So everybody who's present has gone out to the site. We're not going to repeat the memo that was read into the record the last time, but there were some reasons given by the planning department regarding their recommendation, one of which says a flag lot undefined would increase the potential of slower response of times of police, fire, and emergency services. I question how the shape of the lot would alter or affect any response time for police, fire, and emergency. Length of a driveway might affect that, but shape of the lot, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Home behind the existing home, reducing the privacy of the front lot, I think that was addressed at the last meeting. A long driveway behind existing homes would create unwarranted noise and fumes regarding the property and the home to the west. I think that was also addressed at the last meeting. And again, there are other long driveways in the area based upon my review today. I don't know what the percentage is, whether it's 10%, 20%, 5%, but I know there are others there. And lastly, it says a flag lot, again, without a definition, would tend to increase the potential for noncompliance with zoning, meaning somebody illegally might put a multifamily residence or a business in the back property. And when I questioned the planning department on that, they indicated that they had no indication at all that the owner of this property had any plans or had any basis or intention to operate an illegal business or a multifamily residence in the back. So to me, that is just speculation. That are the only comments that I want to make. If there are any other comments from any other members of the board, I will open it up to comments from other board members, and then I'm going to ask for a motion.
Okay, I just have several questions, and I spent the better part of an hour there this afternoon, and I have to say that on paper it doesn't look as good as what I saw as far as the buffering between the adjacent properties. How much of the vegetation around the cabin in the rear would remain? I mean, would you planning on removing any trees? Or?
Generally speaking, not generally, in this particular case, the only vegetation that would be removed would be those areas which are necessary to construct the house. My client is not interested in chopping down trees which is not only costly, but certainly doesn't comport with Fort Salonga and its large trees and foliage. So he wouldn't be cutting anything down other than to build a house.
Okay, and I know there is some type of buffer between the two, the proposed house in the rear and the existing home in the front.
Right.
Now, the driveway would be 25, or the access right-of-way would be 25 feet across, is that?
Yes.
That's correct, okay. The existing house in front, which I believe is a two-family house?
No, it's a one-family.
Oh, because I saw 2 electric services going in. They have 2 electric meters.
There's only one family that lives there. It's rented.
Okay, but that's a single-family house with 2
Yes.
electric services?
With what?
With 2 electric meters,
Oh, I don't know why there are 2 electric meters. There's
Okay, I
there's
just
one
happened
family
to-
there.
to note that. Now, as far as the construction of the driveway, what would there be curbing, or would it just be blacktop, which would allow easier plowing? Or
We would do whatever the planning department recommends. I think, you know, whatever comport with the character of the area, it does have to be some sort of a firm base.
Right.
I'm not sure that it would be all blacktop all the way, but if that's what planning wanted, that's what we would do.
I just would assume for snow removal, it would be easier without having Belgian blocks or curbing.
Right.
So, and that would therefore allow emergency services easier access in the winter. The other question is, and I recall you saying something at the last meeting, and please, maybe, if you wouldn't mind going over that, it probably was before my time on the board, but you had initially, or it was initially proposed that there be one single driveway, and then branching out to the right towards the
Initially,
house.
we did, and I think David Flynn suggested he would like 2 forms, well, 2 ingresses and egress, one for the house in the front and the other just accommodating the house in the rear.
Okay.
Initially, we did have one road.
Okay, I'm not asking you to speak for him, but is that what the applicant prefers? Because to me, that would seem to make more sense, having a wider driveway, and it would increase the narrowness or the length of narrow driveway between the 2
I'm
places.
going to have to ask my
Okay.
client.
Just give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Frank Ridley, 95 Smithtown Boulevard, Smithtown, New York. And yes, this is the original proposal, was a common driveway with common easement. But I think, given the concern about emergency vehicle finding the house, 2 driveway will identify that it's 2 different distinct homes, even if it's not visible from the road.
Okay.
And I think it will be less, if anything, impact on anybody, you know, look-wise. I have, of course, it's cheaper to build 1 common driveway than 2, but I do concur and I agree with Mr. Flynn analysis that to put 2 driveway. But I'll do whatever the board or the planning department recommend.
Okay. All right, that was about it. And I do realize, and I recognize your argument, that this is not a difficulty self-imposed, because the town, for whatever reason, years ago, did not extend the road in the rear way it should have been.
Right.
So do you recall what period of time that was?
1995.
Okay.
That road was constructed and a subdivision, you know, was built with that road. And I can't figure out why they didn't do it. Usually the planning board doesn't want to landlock property.
Historically, ever since I did subdivisions, and I did many of them in Smithtown, always, even one I'm working on now in St. James, they recommend to come with the cul-de-sac all the way to the landlocked property to make it, open it for subdivision. I don't know in their wisdom why this thing passed them, but so.
Okay, yeah, it's a moot point at this time, point in time, but
If the applicant could remain, because I have a question I don't know if Mr. Tramarko could answer. When was the last time the structure in the rear was occupied?
I would say about the one in the back, correct?
Yes. The kind of log cabin structure.
5 years or 4 years ago.
Okay. Is there any reason why it can't be occupied now?
I did not know it cannot be occupied. I bought it, and I got a letter that this structure is built, or the structures on the subdivision or on the property are built before the laws of the town of Smithtown, building laws. So I closed on it, and there were people living in that cabin in the back. It's a log cabin. It's a beautiful cabin.
Yeah, I was out to the site also.
But sure enough, I noticed there was some leak from the water. First, we thought it is from the water line. We repaired it. That goes to the back. Then we figured it is from there is no dry well. So I put a dry well. And all of a sudden, I got a notice from the building department that this structure is illegal, built illegally. So I went through my papers, and there was, in the documents that I submitted to the planning department, a will in my title report that the previous owner willed the cabin in 1986 to his son, and his son or his daughter used to live in the back. So they lived in it, and for many years, and I guess nobody knew about it or nobody bothered. But the cabin existed prior to the road, Martingale coming over, and it would have been resolved, and I wouldn't be here if this thing had an access to Martingale.
The reason I ask is because I find the creation or possible creation of this flag lot a little distinguishable from creating the typical flag lot where there is no structure there already. You already have a residential structure back there. You're simply looking to continue two residential structures on the site and using a flag lot as a means of access.
But I did not want to break any law, so I asked, I took the people out, and since then it's been unoccupied.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, in the second row, you have something to add? Come on up, please. Just give your name and address for the record. We're not going to turn it into a debate, but certainly, sir, if you want to add something, please be my guest.
Harry Triola, 11A Sunken Meadow Road. I have a question first about, did the board members look at any slope in this rear lot or notice the difference between the grades where my property abuts the property that
The issues
they
of
want to
all
put a
the
home
slopes
on?
were discussed at the last meeting.
We
Yeah.
can't discuss that now?
Yeah.
Oh, that, I visit,
all fully
I visit
addressed.
the property once a week, I mow the grass, and I noticed that that property seems to be a foot or lower than my property line. I don't know if that could be important. I thought slope was taken into it as far as being 1 acre.
I noticed the rear parcel as proposed is fairly level, within the confines of the boundary, and your property seems to be higher.
Right.
Now, I have a question. What road do you get access off of? Is it off of Sunken Meadow?
Sunken Meadow Road.
So you have like a long driveway as well?
Not as long as that one. And they can't find me. People get lost all the time. I've been there 18 years. And the people who lived in the back were summertime people. I don't think there was a boiler in there. I don't think there was no one in there in the wintertime, ever. They would come and play games in the back.
You're talking about in the log house?
Yes, yes. There was no one ever there in the wintertime. I don't think it had a water service. I'm not positive. There were no cesspools. I noticed when the builder bought it 6 years ago, there was some digging going on. I don't know if a water service was put in. I don't know. But there was a lot of digging. It seemed to me like there was some precast put in. And I just noticed a lot of digging going on, things happening. And then it all stopped. And now we're panning out 6 years later. And we want to put up a home. I moved to Fort Salonga 25 years ago. I moved there because it's 1 acre zoning. I lived on Bonnie Drive for 7 years. I moved over here. It's 2.55 acres. I have horses. I've had horses. I may want them again. This home is going to impact me. There'll be more people, more noise. Fort Salonga's for horses. It's 1 acre zoning. If you change this rule, then why shouldn't we change all of them? I guess that's my statement.
Thank you very much for your comments, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to point out 2 things. As far as this application, the recommendation being for the BZA to either grant it or deny it, to me would have no effect on any future application because every one of these applications has to be taken on its own facts that are presented with that particular application at that time. Also, if we recommend a denial and the BZA does deny it and this proposal does not go forward, then does the applicant have to keep the back property as is in perpetuity? And could that be deemed a constructive taking and give rise to a lot of legal issues? Because I haven't heard any alternatives from anybody. With looking at that lot, I mean, what could he do? Turn the houses to the west and have a street going back there and have 3 houses? This is more benign than that would be. So nobody's come forward with any alternatives if this is denied, other than the owner of the property not being allowed to use his property and having to keep it as is in perpetuity. So with that being said, everybody has been there, and I'm going to ask for a motion for a proposed resolution. Yes, ma'am. Please give your name and address.
Hi, I'm Linda Henninger, Henninger. I'm a Fort Salonga resident, 1 Meadowwood Lane, Fort Salonga, New York, 11768.
Can you just state where you live in relation to this property?
Not directly near it. I live on Meadowwood, maybe a mile down.
Okay.
I do want to take issue with something that was said, that it doesn't create a precedence. I'm also an attorney. And
So am I.
And I think that's wrong. I think it does create a precedence if you allow something like this. I think everyone in Fort Salonga, the vast majority, do move there because of this 1 acre. And I disagree with the premise that you're going to look at everything one at one. As an attorney, I know I would come back hard and say, hey, you did it over here, you can do it over here. So I just don't agree with that. I just wanted to state that.
Okay, well, I respectfully disagree with your position because I think we will look at everything individually going forward, but you have your right to have your position.
I understand
and you made
everything.
your points.
Everything gets looked at individually. But you know, as a lawyer, if you're representing someone, it's your job to go out and find facts that bolster what you want to do. And one of the facts that another attorney will find to bolster what you want to do is this application.
Yes, I'm aware of how the legal process works, but
Okay.
again, I respectfully don't agree with your position that we're locking ourselves in one way or the other with this. Every other thing going forward is going to be looked at its own facts.
Yeah,
And
I think
understand
it
your
creates a
position.
slippery slope.
Well, I understand your position. I don't agree with you, but I understand it. Okay, with that being said, a motion, I'm asking for a motion for a proposed resolution on this application.
Mr. Chairman, I have a resolution. Be it resolved, the Planning Board hereby recommends the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the variances associated with the subdivision known as Open Meadow number 1156.
And I would just state that some of the reasons which would support this are stated in the record, reflected in some of the positions stated during the discussion. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. That motion is carried unanimously, and that resolution is now adopted. Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is number 12, a waiver request, 1133A, Oakwood Valley Estates, Nesconset. The request is to waive the installation of required sidewalks within the subdivision Oakwood Valley Estates 1133A. The map of Oakwood Valley Estates received conditional final approval from the Planning Board on November 4th, 2009. This application was approved for a 2-lot subdivision on a .94 acres fronting on Alexander Avenue and Maggie Court. The applicant was bonded for 567 linear feet of sidewalks. approximately 100 linear feet on Alexander Avenue, and approximately 467 linear feet on Maggie Court. On March 30th, 2015, the applicant submitted an application to waive all the required sidewalks. The application indicates that there are no sidewalks in the surrounding area. The engineering and highway departments have no objection to this request, and the traffic safety department has no comment. The planning department has performed an on-site inspection of the subdivision and determined that there are sidewalks on Alexander Avenue on one or both sides for its entire length. However, there are no sidewalks on Maggie Court. Alexander Avenue has been identified as a location where sidewalks are needed. Alexander Avenue is a subcollector street connecting Nichols Road and Browns Road to Route 347. It gives access to Middle Country Road and the Smith Haven Mall. There are sidewalks on the east side of Alexander Avenue that currently terminate at the subject site. Given the foregoing, the planning department objects to the sidewalk waiver on Alexander Avenue in that these sidewalks will continue the existing sidewalk network in an area that has been identified as needing sidewalks. There are no apparent unique topographic or environmental factors to suggest that the sidewalks should not be installed at this location, and it appears that the sidewalks could be continued with no disturbance to the existing street trees. Therefore, the planning department recommends that the sidewalks be extended on Alexander Avenue to the intersection of Maggie Court as originally required, with a standard drop curb on Maggie Court as required by the American with Disabilities Act. Maggie Court is a dead-end residential access street giving access to 8 homes. There are sidewalks along Alexander Avenue that connect this street to Middle Country Road. Maggie Court has been identified as a location where sidewalks are needed, and it is unlikely that these sidewalks will be needed at this location in the foreseeable future. For these reasons, the planning department has no objection to the waiver of sidewalks on Maggie Court. The planning department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the planning board hereby approves the request of Carmine Zuccolillo to waive the requirement of installing approximately 467 linear feet of sidewalks on Maggie Court within the subdivision Oakwood Valley Estates 1133A. And be it resolved that the planning board hereby denies the request of Carmine Zuccolillo to waive the requirement of installing approximately 100 linear feet of sidewalk on Alexander Avenue within the subdivision Oakwood Valley Estates 1133A.
Thank you. Anybody present on behalf of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant, and he didn't come in to sign the affidavit of posting, so I
We're
guess.
going to have to adjourn it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so based upon the circumstances stated in the record, we're going to adjourn this. Would you prefer a date certain, or just any date that we get it back on?
I think I'll make sure he comes in the next
For the
time,
next
so,
meeting?
yeah.
Which we have one meeting in the month of August, right? Is that the 12th, right? All right, so I move that for the circumstances stated that we adjourn this matter to the August 2015 meeting, which would be the August 12th meeting.
Thank you.
Anybody want to second that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adjourned.
The next item on the agenda is a zoning petition number 13, 2015-05, Thomas Giswali, Kings Park. Number 1, reason for report. The planning board will conduct a public hearing on July 15, 2015 to consider the above referenced petition to change the zoning from R21, residence half acre per dwelling and light industry, to RMGA, residence multifamily garden apartments. The applicant is Thomas Giswali. The proposed district covers 16 tax lots totaling approximately 36.1 acres of a 43-acre site. It includes Queens Avenue, 0.9-acre unimproved street. Almost all of the site has been mined, and most of it has been filled with solid waste, including stumps, brush, and construction debris. The elevation of the land above sea level ranges from approximately 90 feet along Lawrence Road to approximately 140 feet along the north property line. The water table is about 50 feet above sea level. The terrain consists of excavations and mounds of mulch and demolition debris. Number 4, zoning. The site is R21 and LI, north R21 R43, south R21 and LI, east R21, west R21 and LI. The land use at the site, solid waste, processing, outdoor storage of trucks and equipment. To the north is vacant, NYSDEC Park Preserve. To the south is concrete products manufacturing, transfer station. To the east is wooded greenbelt, single-family residence. To the west is vacant. Number 6, access. To the east, the site has approximately 1,100 feet of frontage on Lawrence Road, a secondary arterial highway. To the west, it has 1,400 feet of frontage on Kings Park Road, an unimproved street connecting Old Northport Road and Indian Head Road. Kings Park Road would be a collector street if the site and adjacent sites are developed. However, the right-of-way is substandard for a collector in that it is only 50 feet wide instead of the standard 60 feet. Also, the site is bisected by Queens Avenue, a 1,300-foot-long unimproved street that connects the two roads. The right-of-way is substandard in that it is only 30 feet instead of the standard 50 feet. Proposal. No detailed proposal is included in the petition. The petition states residential development garden apartments. A conceptual site plan submitted with the petition depicts 20 5,000-square-foot buildings and approximately 90 parking stalls on the south half of the site. Based on the parking, it appears that 60 apartments are proposed. However, absent any special restrictions, the rezoning would permit as many as 626 apartments. The conceptual site plan shows 18 parking stalls and a second driveway on the north half of the site. It also includes a note referring to a golf course design. However, about 60 acres are needed for a 9-hole golf course. Planning considerations. The proposed land use is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. The plan includes this area and a large area of medium-density single-family residence. The plan was completed in 1961, and in recent years the town board directed the planning department to prepare an update. A draft was submitted to the board in February 2015, and it reflects changes in land use and public concerns since the time of the original plan. It should be emphasized that the draft is only a draft and has not been adopted. Nevertheless, it is useful to consider because it is based on a comprehensive view of the town's conditions and needs. The draft recommends that filled land in this area be developed with uses that do not involve substantial buildings, examples solar farms, tree farms, greenhouses, and outdoor recreation. It recommends that mined land that has not been filled be used for light industrial uses needed in this part of town, such as parking of small trucks and equipment, repair garages. This part of town does not meet commonly used town planning criteria for locating high-density housing. High-density residence is normally located adjacent to downtowns. This has many benefits, including reducing traffic congestion, pollution, and energy consumption. Apartments also act as a transitional land use between intensive businesses uses and low-intensity residential uses. Apartments adjacent to a downtown also help the economic viability, property values, and tax base of the downtown. This concept has been a standard of town planning since at least the 1920s, but it also advocated by modern planning techniques such as smart growth, transit-oriented development, new urbanism, and neo-traditional development. The site is approximately 1 mile from the nearest business district and would situate single-family residents between intensive uses. The site straddles fire district and school district boundaries. It is normally not efficient to locate high-density residences at the edge of school districts. Also, it is normally not prudent to locate high-density development at the edges of fire districts. The volume of calls tend to be higher, the distance to the response is greater, and the likelihood of confusion as to which district the emergency is in is higher. The site is not well suited for high-density residents. Almost the entire site has been strip mined and then filled with solid waste. Reportedly, the waste is largely demolition debris, but aerial photographs show that at least 12 acres of the site is covered with organic material. The staff is not aware of any reports that no other kind of waste has been buried on the site. Approximately 6 acres of the site is capped landfilled. According to approximately 30 test boring logs from the other 30 acres, the waste is as deep as 48 feet and averages about 20 to 30 feet. It should be noted that the test borings are 12 years old and solid waste has been dumped on the site for several years after. The presence of solid waste raises two concerns, health and structural. It does not seem prudent to permit people to live above or adjacent to buried waste. The risk of the release of toxic or hazardous chemicals into or around the homes need to be carefully analyzed. Also, the potential for buildings, pipes, and paving to shift or crack is higher than it is in typical conditions. The presence of solid waste also raises a practical concern. The cost of development over a landfill higher than normal. Special engineering techniques are likely to be required to minimize the problems of settling and cracking. Some of the adjacent land uses are not compatible with high-density residents. A solid waste transfer station on Lawrence Road is likely to remain. The truck traffic noise, vibration, and visual character would reduce the quality of life and would likely generate code violation complaints to the town. The concrete products manufactured on the land to the southwest may continue if the town board does not approve the petition to rezone that area from LI to R21. Outdoor storage, trucking stations, and similar uses may be established on the land to the southeast if the town board approves the petition to rezone that area from R21 to WSI. The petition does not include all of the land that is fenced and used as one site. The proposed district would surround on 3 sides as a narrow but deep 1.3 acre lot that is zoned R21. Rezoning the subject area would make it difficult to use the out parcel. To the southeast is a 5 acre portion of the site that would remain R21 and would be sandwiched between a transfer station and RMGA. The land included this petition overlaps half acre of land that is included in the petition from R21 to WSI, 2011-10 Lettieri. Normally, 2 property owners do not file conflicting petitions to rezone the same property. The petition should be considered in the context of other pending rezoning petitions for adjoining properties. The oldest is to rezone 5 acres from R21 to WSI, 2011-10 Lettieri. The second is to rezone 20 acres from LI to R21, 2013-5 KPE2. This petition is to rezone 36 acres from R21 and LI to RMGA. If all were approved, the resulting land use pattern would not be logical. If the site were to be developed for residential use, it would likely be best to remove the solid waste from a portion of the site and concentrate development there. The overall intensity should not be greater than the current maximum permitted density of 11 acres of LI and 25 acres of R21 as measured by water usage, trip generation, and similar performance standards. Number 9, referral to county planning agency. Pursuant to Section 239M of New York State General Municipal Law, this zoning action is required to be referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission because it involves property within 500 feet of a state park. The petition was referred to the commission, and on April 1st, 2015, the commission deemed the referral to be incomplete with respect to a full statement of facts, and commission will not review the action until the town has submitted a block study analysis, environmental site assessments, a traffic impact analysis, and an affordable housing analysis. This means that the town board cannot change the zoning inasmuch as the commission has not acted. However, it does not affect the planning board's authority to make a recommendation. The recommendation. The planning department recommends that the planning board recommend to the town board that the town board deny the petition by Thomas Giswale 2015-05 to change the zones from R21 and LI to RMGA. Be denied and offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Be it resolved that the planning board recommends to the town board that the town board deny petition number 2015-05 by Thomas Giswale to change the zones from R21 and LI to RMGA on certain properties identified on the Suffolk County Tax Map 44-2-6 and 45-5-2 through 6 and 45-5-8 through 17 based on the following reasons. Number 1, the proposed zoning is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Number 2, the location does not meet the geographic criteria for dense residential land use in as much as it's not near public transportation, a downtown, and community facilities. Number 3, the site is not suitable for residential use because it is filled with buried solid waste. Number 4, the proposed zoning would make it difficult to develop several adjacent properties. Number 5, RMGA is not consistent with the prevailing R21 zoning pattern in the vicinity.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant.
Mr. Tremarco, before you start, I just want to confirm one thing and ask a question. Based upon the acreage that you recited, would it be fair to estimate that approximately 70% of this property is R21 and approximately 30% of the property is light industry?
Correct.
Okay. And the other thing is, with respect to the environmental issues and the issue of what might be buried there, if this proposal was going to go forward at some point, would not, in all likelihood, an environmental impact statement be required?
It's not my call, but I think that's a safe bet.
Right. So, and wouldn't all those issues be further addressed in
Yes.
such a statement if it was going to go forward?
Yes.
And lastly, it was referred to the County Planning Commission because it involves property within 500 feet of a state park?
Correct.
And they can't, what's that?
I was going to say, the only state park that I see there is some form of a park that DEC owns, the state DEC owns. It's used. There's a trail in it. But their jurisdiction, as you know, is only within 500 feet
Right.
of a state or county highway or a state or county park or a municipal boundary. And
In
there
your
are no,
opinion, does that,
this must qualify in their mind or in their law as
in
a
other
park.
words, the state land that's there, let's call it that,
Right.
In your opinion, qualifies as a state park, triggering the requirement to notify the county planning commission?
Not in my opinion. In my opinion, they must define it as a park.
Right, okay. And also, the county planning commission came back to you and said that they felt that the application was, the referral was not complete, correct?
They actually came back to the town clerk and the town board, but I did get a copy. And they said it was incomplete. And since it was incomplete, they would not make a decision.
Now, I know under the law, that doesn't stop us from making a recommendation. It may stop the town board from ultimately granting the application or denying the application.
Right.
But I would just question, just a question,
Sure.
for everybody to think about. Having heard from the planning commission because they deem that it's incomplete.
Yeah,
Right,
I
I
think
think
that's a good one. I would suggest that if
In other words, we can make a recommendation to the town board of whether
Right.
they should or not, should grant it or not,
right,
but whether we should, in the absence of input from the county planning commission, in whose opinion the referral is not complete, is another issue.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Tramarko, please continue.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
First of all, probably happened to me, I don't know how many times, but I never received a copy of this recommendation, 5 or 6 pages that Matt read. And they're supposed to do that. What's that?
Your name is,
Well,
Mississippi.
that's fine, but I didn't get it, and
Could I respond? I asked on Monday, was Mr. Tramarko given a copy? And the clerk said that she faxed it to him on Friday, the previous Friday,
Which would be?
last Friday. Must be the 10th.
She faxed it to his office,
Correct,
and Mr. Tramarko says he didn't receive it.
right. I
For
don't know.
whatever reason, he says he hasn't gotten it.
no, I didn't get it, and I'm not saying it wasn't faxed.
I understand
don't
that.
know.
You're just saying that you haven't received
Right,
it
I
in
haven't
your hands
received
until
it, so
now.
I really didn't have an
I
opportunity to.
apologize. I don't know how to account for it. I wanted to make sure that this didn't happen again, and I was assured that,
We're not blaming anybody.
Okay.
Nobody, I don't think anybody's doubting that the member of your staff who said that they faxed it,
Right.
faxed it to Mr. Tramarko's office. Mr. Tramarko was saying that notwithstanding that, it didn't reach his hands.
right,
So he didn't have an opportunity to review it. And I suspect that he may be asking for an adjournment of this hearing to give himself an opportunity to review it so that he can respond to the recommendation, which is for a denial.
Yes, that's correct, but before that, I'd like to remind the board what happened with KPE2, which is literally right next door to the Jeswali property. We came in, made the application for R21, basically, residential half-acre parcels. After giving it a lot of thought and the location of that property, we thought it would behoove us to ask the planning board to recommend to the town board now to issue a positive declaration. If the town board issues the positive declaration like they did with KPE, we then must file an environmental impact statement. That environmental impact statement would vet most of the, not most, all of the questions that the planning department has raised.
And then some.
Excuse
And
me?
then some. It's a very exhaustive
Oh, and
study.
then some, you're right. The first part of the KPE impact statement came into my office, I think it was yesterday, and it's 3 inches thick. Pursuant to any type of impact statement, there's a public vetting of the whole process. They go into everything. Traffic, environmental, geology, use of the property. So we thought, and Mr. Giswali thinks, that if we could, in effect, ask this board to recommend to the town board, and I think the town board would issue a positive declaration, and we could start maybe 6 or 8 months from now. We'd have a lot of answers that we don't really have right now. And if we don't do that, and this board decides to render a decision, it's only going to happen later on, and the town board, you know, everybody will have lost a substantial amount of time. So it's a good thing for everybody. I know that Mr. Giswali has dealt with the town. His lawyer has been to court many times. The property now is completely free of any debris, trailers, all types of tenants. And that's happened probably in the last, final thing was done maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. The property is an industrial property. We don't know everything about it. So that's why it's, I think, a good suggestion that the board recommend to the town board now. I think the town board is going to say, sure, that's the right thing to do. You're going to have to do it anyway. So that's my first request in the form of an application. If the board is not, the board feels it doesn't want to do that, then obviously I want some time to answer the planning department's 5-page dissertation on our property. It would certainly help me and my client to be able to vet every, I don't want to use the word allegation, statement that the planning department has made. This property, it's true, it's R21, there's some light industry. It's a mishmash of different zonings. And I mean, you can see that I've colored it in here, and it's not something that's very easy to determine. So our application for RMGA would be for co-ops, not to build garden apartments, but co-ops where people will own a unit. Out of the 50 acres, we were thinking about probably between 200 and 250 units. The majority of the rest
Cooperative apartments, you're talking about when you say co-ops.
I'm sorry?
Cooperative apartments.
Yes, yes, they would be owned. They wouldn't be rental units. The rest of the property, Mr. Giswali was thinking about either a 9-hole golf course or a passive park. It would not be used for any type of commercial application. And that's...
Marco, could I just ask?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Could I just ask the size of the proposed co-ops? Are we talking about 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
It would be 1 and 2-bedroom.
Are we talking about any kind of age restriction, or this would be open to families with children?
Right now, it's open to everyone. So, given the situation and the fact that the board recommended this for KPE right next door, I think the best thing to do would be to do that environmental impact statement, and it's good for everybody, not only us, but the people that are concerned about what's going on over there. They're going to do not only all the book research on the property, but they're actually going to go on the property. They're going to test hole. They're going to do a whole bunch of things that'll make everybody knowledgeable about what we can do there. And my client's willing to take that chance. He probably doesn't have a choice anyway, because the town board, I can't see them not recommending an environmental impact statement. So thank you.
Could I ask another question? Would the co-ops be exclusively owner-occupied, or would you be planning on allowing rentals as well?
No, they're all owner-occupied. We're not in the rental business.
And are we talking about a clubhouse and a pool and tennis courts, or are we talking about just residents?
No, we don't think so. They're going to sell probably for around $350,000.
Okay, that's it for now?
That's it.
Okay, now, Mr. Flynn, with respect to the deferral or the response from the Suffolk County Planning Commission, would it be feasible to expect that any of the things that they say that they do not have, which they want to have in order to give us their position, could be given to them at some point in the relatively immediate future, such that if and when we do vote on this, we will have their recommendation as part of the input, part of the record?
A key word is relative. You said the relative immediate future. I think the information could be obtained. I think the petitioner would have to supply the information. A couple of the terms that the county used, I don't think there are generally accepted definitions. The block analysis, for example, someone would have to figure out what did the county mean by that.
I'm just saying that, the usual procedure when it is within 500 feet of property that
Right.
qualifies as a state park is to get a recommendation or position one way or
Right.
the other
Mhm.
from the Suffolk County Planning Commission. And although we could make a recommendation to the town board on this matter without it, I don't know that we should.
I understand.
Because the law is there for a reason, to give the county input, and maybe they should have an opportunity to give their input.
Mhm.
But, Mr. Tramarko, you are requesting that we ask the town board to do an EIS, or an alternative, give yourself time to respond, to review and respond to the planning department's memorandum of denial. Given the circumstances under which you say you got the memo only now or today, and didn't have sufficient time to prepare a response, I would be inclined to grant your request for an adjournment. However, we do have a lot of people here who probably came for this matter. Just by show of hands, can everybody raise their hand who came for this? And of those who are raising their hands, how many of you wish to speak? Okay, so what I'm going to do, given the circumstances that Mr. Tramarko indicates, he just received this 5-page memo which recommends that his client's application be denied. He wants time to review it and prepare a response. So I'm inclined to honor his request for an adjournment to give him time to do that, which would mean it would be adjourned to the August 12th. Was it August?
August 12th.
I suspect he would have time to respond to the planning department's
But the county
report.
issues would not be resolved
But
by then.
I don't think that could be responded to
Right.
in time.
Okay. But since if anybody's here, so given the fact that it appears that we're going to adjourn and continue this hearing, we'll keep it open. If anybody's here tonight who wishes to speak tonight, please feel free to come up to the microphone and speak. The hearing is most likely going to be adjourned and continued to a later date to allow the applicant's attorney to respond to the memo which recommends his client's application be denied, and perhaps have the Suffolk County Planning Commission be provided with the information they say they need in order for them to give us their response and their input one way or the other. So what I'm saying is there will be another opportunity for anybody who wishes to speak on this one way or the other to do so. However, if you're here now and you want to speak now, since you're already here, and if you don't want to come back, that's fine, you can speak now. So if there's anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this now, please come up. If you don't come up, you will have the full right to speak when the hearing is continued.
Bear in mind that it might be helpful to speak at the same time that he responds, because you might want to rebut some of his points. Just in the interest of avoiding redundance, you could speak tonight, but he's going to respond at a later time. If you're going to come back again and possibly say some of the same things over again, wouldn't it make sense not to speak this evening if you're going to want to respond to him?
Everybody, it's your own choice.
But it's your choice, but it is
just
your
offering
choice.
it. We are going to continue the hearing because of the circumstances where he just got the memo and he wants time to respond to it. But just as a matter of convenience, if anybody is here now and feels they may not want to come back, that's fine. Come up and speak. If not, when the hearing is continued and Mr. Tramarko responds to the planning department's memo, you'll all have an opportunity. Anybody else who's not here who comes then will have an opportunity to be heard at that time because we're going to keep the hearing open.
Is the hearing August 12th?
I don't think we're going to have it August 12th because I would like to have an opportunity. Most likely will be in September. I would like, based upon what Mr. Flynn tells me, he doesn't believe between now and August 12th the county can be given what they say they need. And as I indicated, due to the location of the property, it has been referred to Suffolk County Planning Commission for a response from them on their position. And they say they don't have what they need to give a response. We're allowed to make a recommendation to the town board without that response, but I don't know that we should, given the fact that the law gives them an opportunity to be heard. Perhaps they should be given an opportunity to get the information that they need and be heard, so that when we do hear it, we have Suffolk County's opinion, one way or the other, whatever it is, just so it's part of the record. So do you think that would be done by September, or you want to we'll just adjourn it without date?
Okay. Realistically, I don't think it'll be done by September. We could try, but it will require, I think, the town to figure out what it is exactly the county wants to make a full statement. Then we would provide that information to the applicant. Then they need time to do it. And if you look at the wording on those, the traffic analysis, the block study analysis, the affordable housing analysis, those can't be done. I don't think they can be done in a couple of weeks after.
If we adjourn without a date, the applicant is going to have to repost, correct?
Correct.
So that way, anybody who's here, if we can't give you a date tonight, only because we don't know how long the delay will be for other governmental agencies, you'll see the posting again if we adjourn without a date, so you shouldn't be sideswiped by this. And you always have the opportunity to call the department in a month or two and say, how's it going?
I think what we'll do is we'll adjourn without a date, and just note for the record, Mr. Tramarko, we have the right to make a recommendation without Suffolk County's response. However, I don't know that it would be prudent one way or the other to do that. So if there are things that you can do to move the process along, I know it's not completely within your control, so that Suffolk County can be in a position to give us a response in a relatively short period of time. Again, that's what we're thinking. So what we're going to do is we'll adjourn it without date. Given that fact, it'll be reposted, and all the residents will have the opportunity to see the sign, and I'm sure you can all keep in touch with the planning department by calling them if you want to find out when it's going to be rescheduled, if you missed the posting, if you don't see it. So with that being said, a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to 2015-05, Thomas Giswaldi.
There are people who are raising their hands to speak.
You want to speak tonight? Oh, okay.
And then I'll withdraw.
It doesn't preclude us from next time, right?
No. Yes. If you're going to get up and say the same thing, we may not want you to do that, but yes, if you speak tonight, this does not preclude you from speaking the next time.
If you wish to speak, then I will withdraw the motion at this time.
Okay. If anybody wishes to be heard on this matter now, again, please come up, give your name and address to them for the record, and you can be heard, noting that the matter will be continued, and you and everybody else and anybody who's not here will have an opportunity to be heard at that time as well.
Hi.
Oh, name and address, please, sir.
Yes. My name is Sean Lehman. I'm president of the Kings Park Civic Association. My address is 27 Columbine Lane, Kings Park. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm going to read a little letter first, and then we'll have our vice president come up and state reasons why we're against this application. Okay, this letter is dated October 14th, 1999. It was to the Smithtown Messenger. This letter is addressed to the Smithtown Town Council and Town Supervisor Patrick Vecchio. It has come to my attention that the former site of the Star Sand and Gravel is zoned for residential use. A rumor has also come to my attention that homes are to be built right in the hole. The rumor goes further as saying that this is a done deal and there is nothing that can be done to stop it. It is imperative that this property is never allowed to have a single home built on it. You all must be aware that this property was once on the Superfund list of toxic sites. How could anyone in this community ever knowingly allow a home to be built on a site that was ever on such a list? How could we allow a home to be built even next to one? The property should never be used for anything greater than a tree farm or golf course. How could we allow a home to be built on any dump/fill site? Who would answer a future resident's query whose house, after settling, cracked its foundation and now must be demolished? I cannot, I will not, and I stand idly by and allow a single home to be built on this property. I will not endanger a future neighbor. I personally have witnessed cesspool trucks and trucks with mysterious cargo going up to Star Sand and Gravel. This is back when it was a dead-end street. Calling the cops, of course, was to no avail since their response time was never less than 1 hour, even when the EPA said that they must respond as well. Stationing an EPA guy to watch didn't work either. Any trucks knew when and where he was. The trucks always went in at night. That's why you guys changed the ordinance to limit the activities to daylight hours, of course, and that didn't stop them. We all complained of the stench and the noise at night. As you may have guessed, I have been a resident of Smithtown for some time, since 1972. We, like others, came to get away from the congestion. Things have changed, but we certainly don't need a love canal. I am certain that you all agree with me on this matter. I strongly urge you to take this matter up and take the appropriate action that will permanently put an end to this matter. I shall never have to answer a future neighbor's or resident's question, how could you ever let this happen? Because we didn't. I thank you for your attention and time. John F. McDonald, Kings Park. And now our Vice President will speak.
Thank you. And sir, as I indicated, when the hearing is continued, you'll have the right to be heard again. You're not going to have you read the letter again, but if you have other comments you want to make at that time, you'll be free to make them.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You can take it out if you want.
No, I'll drop it.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Linda Henninger. I reside at 1 Meadowood Lane, Fort Salonga. I'm Vice President of the Kings Park Civic Association. Thank you. Henninger. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. For the following reasons, the Kings Park Civic Association opposes the requested zone change. 1, health reasons. We have both a moral and ethical obligation to protect the health of current and future residents of Kings Park. Due to illegal dumping for years and fill that was never compacted, it would be reckless to allow the development of housing on this property. It's not safe to live where there's buried materials, which in this location includes, but is not limited to, mercury, semi-volatile organic compounds, pesticides, PCBs, and metal constituents. 2, it's not good planning to have high-density housing next to industry, as this leads to substantial industry-generated complaints. There are 2 incompatible uses. It would be next to a recycling center and a transfer station, which presently have a pending petition to expand. 3, location criteria are not met. It doesn't meet local criteria for multifamily housing. It is not near community facilities, firehouse, transit, stores, schools, etc. 4, it is inconsistent with prevailing residential development pattern, which is single-family, medium-density residential, not multifamily, high-density residential. 5, it will set an undesirable precedent. Korea and Raleigh are presently zoned single-family residential. They will likely seek to maximize density if this application is granted. 6, it is not consistent with the Town of Smithtown's current comprehensive plan, which allows only medium-density residential, R21 zoning, in this area. 7, there may very well be need for garden apartments in the Town of Smithtown, but there are locations better suited for this use, other than this closed landfill. If one looks at the yet-to-be-adopted draft of the updated comprehensive plan, other more suitable locations are designated, such as Jericho Turnpike Corridor, where apartments would be close to stores, transit, etc., and that's page 14 of the draft. 8, there exist more suitable uses for this property, such as solar farms, tree farms, greenhouses, and outdoor recreations. 9, it also should be noted that the irregular shape of the property is not conducive to high-density housing, And it's really important to note, there exists the potential of 626 apartments with additional zone changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like a copy?
If you want to hand it in,
Yeah.
be my guest. We'll make it a part of the record.
Thank you.
You just get, is it all the same? You just give us one.
One's good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
For the record, what Ms. Henninger has just read has been handed in. It's a one-page document. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Flynn and also to give to our stenographer. And also, Mr. Tramarko, Mr. DeMaio is going to make a motion in a second to adjourn it, but with respect to the county issue, if you come to a point sometime in the future where you feel that you want to bring it to a hearing that you don't think you're going to be able to get something from them or get them what they need, or they say they need to give a recommendation from their point of view, then you can, if you feel you've gotten to that point and you just want us to make a decision on it, you're not going to be able to get them the information or something of that nature, contact the planning staff. You have to do your posting, and then we'll go from there. But again, our thinking, my thinking anyway, is that the reason for the referral to the county is there for a reason.
I'll speak to Mr. Flynn. and,
Okay.
We'll work it out somehow.
I'm just saying, you don't have to be there in perpetuity. That's
Right.
all.
I understand.
Give it your best shot, as they say.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else who wishes to be heard tonight on this application is going to be adjourned, and the hearing will be kept open, which means that whoever comes the next time will also be able to speak. A motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to number 2015-05, Thomas Giswali, Kings Park, I'd like to move that we adjourn the matter, leave the hearing open, and adjourn it without a date.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you very much. You'll do the map signing after the meeting?
Yeah, I don't do that during the meeting. Shouldn't even really be on the calendar. Okay.
Would the chair like a motion to adopt the minutes?
Oh, we do have that. All right, so the next matter, well, I don't want to steal Matt's thunder.
Uh,
Go ahead, roar on.
Number 15, adoption of minutes from the June 17th, 2015
Now,
hearing.
Mr. D'Amato, could we have a motion, please, regarding the adoption of the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we adopt the minutes from the June 17, 2015 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So adopted.
16, correspondence notice from SC legislator, public hearing on the SC master plan.
Do we have a copy of that in our packet?
Yes.
Looks like this.
It's separate.
Oh, separate, okay.
That one.
Let me just look at
Go
yours.
ahead, take a look at mine. Maybe I have two. No.
All right, so the board has received a notice of a public hearing, July 20th, 2015, on the stationery of the office of the County Legislature, County of Suffolk, indicating that the Suffolk County Legislature shall convene a public hearing on Monday, July 20th, 2015, at 10 a.m. at the Rose Caracappa Auditorium, located at 725 Veterans Memorial Highway in Hauppauge, to review the draft Suffolk County Comprehensive Master Plan 2035 as detailed in IR 1493-15. So that receipt of that correspondence regarding the notice of that public hearing is noted. And the last thing that we have is the map signing, which I will take care of as soon as the meeting is over, which will be over as soon as there's a motion to adjourn.
Motion
Chairman,
to
oh.
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. So adjourned. We are adjourned.